everyone, and welcome to the Red Brick House. My name is Susan and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Today's video is going to be a continuation of the last video where I am making my daughter some pajamas for summer. In the last video I made her the shorts, and today I'm going to make the top. So I want this top to be kind of a swing line tank top. And I have a dress of hers that I'm going to use for the width, and then I have another tank top that I'm going to use for the length. And I'm going to use those in place of a pattern because I don't have patterns for pajamas, and sometimes, you know, depending on where you live, sometimes it's hard to go and find patterns in the store anymore. And a lot of times, you know, you can buy them online, then you have to print them out and piece them together. And I've done that before, and it's not a bad idea, but to me it takes a lot. It took me a whole day to piece together and tape everything together for a pattern that I made for her last fall. And so I'm going to do that today, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so these are the two shirts. Well, one's a shirt and one is a dress. And I'm going to use this tank that's on top for the length. And then I'm going to use this one underneath, this pink one here. I'm using that for the width of the bodice, because this tank's a little bit smaller than this one. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut it on the fold. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use from here to here, that's going to be my width, and then I'm going to add an extra inch on each side when I cut it out to allow for the seam allowance and to allow just a little bit extra. So it'll be hopefully it'll be a little bit bigger than this dress. This dress is already kind of like loose on her, so I think it'll be plenty big to allow for any kind of stretching that might happen, just because this is already kind of big on her, which is really weird because she puts on this one. Maybe it's the stretch of the material, I don't know. But this one doesn't look that much smaller when you look at it, maybe a 1/4 inch on each side, but it looks like more fitted on her than the other one. And I'm also going to be using this right here. I'm using the pink for the arms. I hope you can see that. I'm going to use the pink for that too. So I'll fold it over so I can cut it on the fold. But I wanted to show, before I do that, I wanted to show how I wanted it to look. So because this is a dress, I'm not making the pajama top in this way where it's gathered right here. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I want it to be kind of a swing line tank, or kind of an A-frame kind of tank. So it's going to start here, and I'm going to make my own line kind of down to here, I think is what I'm going to do. So let me get it folded over and we'll get it cut out. So now what I've done is I folded it over, and I'm going to get the cut for the back. So right now, when I cut this out, it's going to be for the back of the shirt. And so I took the dress here and I folded it over this way, okay? And so this right here is the back, because it's a little bit higher in the neckline at the back than, you know, in the front. So that's why I have that. And because this is a gathered skirt here, what I did is I just folded this over right here, so that it would be a straight line right here on this fold. And I folded the fabric here, you know, of course, as well. So we're also going to be cutting out the cheetah at the same time, because I don't know if you can see that. You can't see it. It is underneath here too. Okay, so let me straighten this back out. And I want to make it about an inch bigger all the way around. That way I just have some extra to utilize in case I need it. And when I get to this side over here, I'm going to I think I'm going to measure the tank. Maybe I'll do that now. So I want to go ahead and put this tank up here. So I'm going to fold it over the same way. So that's the front of the tank. So I'm going to fold it over this way because I'm doing the back, which it won't matter really, but I'm going to lay this up here and I'm going to line up my shoulder seams and the under armpit seam. So everything else doesn't really need to line up because I just want the length with this. So I lined it up here and I lined it up here. And then I can see how long I want it to be. So it's pretty long, it's not really in the frame, but now I have a gauge of where I want to cut at. Right down there. So I'm going to put a mark. I'm going to take my fabric marker here and I'm going to mark that. I also want to allow for a seam allowance. So I'm going to give myself a little extra and I'm going to mark it right there so that I can see it. And then let me get my ruler. That's what I'm going to use because there's kind of a gap here and I don't want to have it crooked. So I'm going to put that at the edge there. Try to line it up with this edge as much as I can. Keep it straight. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want it a little bit straight. Well, a lot of it straight. Okay, so that's the length that I want. But what I kind of wanted to do is I kind of wanted it to curve the way that this one does. You see how this slightly curves up on the edges like that? I think that's really cute. I'm not going to cut the front smaller than or shorter than the back, but I kind of like that little curve. So let's see. What is the difference on that curve? Okay, it goes up about 3/4 of an inch. So here at the edge, it stays the same until about like right here, and then it goes up a little bit. So I'm trying to gauge kind of just by eye, like if I was going to follow that curve right here. Let me move the camera so you can see. So if I was going to follow this curve right here, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and kind of follow it. I think about like right here. I'm making a pretty big mark so I can see. This will wash out. Okay, there we go. Now for the rest of it, I'm just going to measure a 1/2 inch out here to the side. So I'm going to start there, and it's about like right there. And I'll just mark it ever so often, all the way up here, all the way through the dress. So I'm just going to continue to do that. And then we'll be ready to cut it out. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut it out. I'm kind of nervous about doing this part over here because I did just kind of dotted lined. I just kind of drew it in. But I am going to go ahead and cut across here. And there we have it. Now we have the back. Yay! Okay. So I think it turned out okay. I hope it turned out okay. I think my armhole looks a little bit strange. I think I'm going to round it out just a little bit more, and then we'll do the front. Okay, so now I have folded my fabric back up, and I'm going to use what I just cut out, the back. I'm going to use that as my pattern now. That way I don't have to troubleshoot around how I want it to be, and it will be just like the top. The only thing I need to change is the neckline. I'm going to be troubleshooting the edge a little bit because of the way I cut out the top. Now I'm kind of low on fabric here at the bottom. So I'm going to kind of troubleshoot here, and what I'm going to do to fix that is that if you look at this tank top here, you can see like this is the front and then this is the back. It's about 1.5 inches longer in the back. So that's what I'm going to do here. So, you know, when you're trying to make something and you don't have a pattern, study the garment that you have and how it was made. Because if you look here, the only difference is that they would just cut this straight across. So this is just cut straight across, and the curve is in the back. So this will work out fine. Instead of curving, when I cut this out, I'm going to start here on the edge, and I'm going to go straight over to meet that edge, and hopefully that will work out. This is going to be an experiment, so we shall see. I don't think that's going to work with mine, actually, because I have a much I don't know how you would say it, steeper curve here. So what I'm going to have to do is I will start at this edge, and that's going to be my guide, and I'm going to cut across. That's how I'm going to do it, because if not, then these edges won't meet up. So I'm thinking on the fly here. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to start here, and we'll cut across there. So I'm just going to mark it with my pen. Make sure those edges are lined up. And I mean, if for some reason it's too short, it should be fine. But if it's too short, I'll just put a ruffle on it, because I have a lot of material to make a ruffle. I just don't have quite enough to make a swoopy back on the front side. And that's okay. We'll just problem solve. It'll work. It's just pajamas after all. I mean, you know. Okay. So let me fix that, and then let me show you how I'm going to do the neckline. Okay, now for the neckline, I'm trying to get the front neckline here that you can see right here. So what I'm going to do, this is the hardest part for me whenever I am working without a pattern. I'm going to leave myself a seam allowance, make sure I don't cut my cheetah fabric. And I'm going to come up about 1 inch up. And I'm going to make a little snip right here. Now I'm just going to put my finger where I know I kind of need to go next. And I'm just going to kind of curve up to my finger with the scissors, being careful not to cut my finger. I'm trying to keep that seam allowance where I want it. And lifting everything up behind here. If it comes out a little wider, I mean, I think it'll be okay. Also look at it, just, you know, memorize it with your eyes so you can kind of see how you're curving, and then this is more of a straight curve. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. Kind of like that, I think. Okay. That's almost lines up with my back. So that's pretty, I mean, that's not bad. That's pretty good. It should have, well, yeah, because you want those to line up. It's a little bit off, but I can fix it as I sew. Line up my shoulder seams here, and then I'm just going to cut out the rest of it here. Okay, first thing I'm going to sew is I'm going to sew up the side seam right here. So I'm going to put the wrong sides, or the right sides together. This is going to be super simple, you guys, to sew up. The thing that's going to take the longest will be the hemming. Hemming the bottom and hemming the arms and hemming the top, the neckline. So I'm just going to do it like that. Actually, I might sew the shoulder seams first. I think that's what I'm going to do first. Typically, the last shirt I made where I had a pattern, I think it instructed me to do that first. So I'm going to sew across the top here on both sides, and then I'm just going to sew down the sides. Okay, so now I have pressed the inside shoulder seams flat, and I did use that hem glue stuff here to push that down so it won't come up. And also went and I tried this on her to make sure that the hole here that you put over your head was big enough to go over her head, because I didn't want it to sew it and be too small, and then I would have to amend it and put in some buttons or something like that. So now I'm just going to sew up the side seams here. So I have pinned my side seams starting under the armpit, and I have pinned it down, and I'm just going to sew those together. And this is so simple. After this, all I have to do is hem the top and the arms and the neck, and then you're done. It's just so easy. So let's get to sewing. Okay, so here's my bottom seam. I have pressed it under. When I do my hems, I just kind of eyeball it. I'm doing it roughly about a 1/4 inch hem. It's probably a little bit bigger than that. But I'm just going to sew along here, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the arms and the neck, because I think I'm going to do it a little bit different than this. This is kind of just a traditional way of hemming. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll tackle the neck and the arms. Okay, I think that looks good. So there's the finished edge here. It was a little tricky going around this curve, but I tried to keep it as straight and equal, you know, equal as possible so that it looks nice. So now I am going to work on the neck and the arms, and I am going to try this stuff because I've never used it for its actual real purpose. And that is to glue down a hem so that it is a no-sew. But I'm going to stitch over it anyway because I want the aesthetic of having a hemline there around the neck. So this is what I'm going to use. I've used it before. I bought it to fix my dress that had a hole in it. And now I've also used it in my seam work to keep these edges down so they don't fray, because I don't have a serger and I'm really not very good at zigzagging. I don't know why, but I guess I need more practice. But I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this on the neck and the arms because if you've sewn things, especially things for children, this right here is like super, I mean, it's small. You know, it's just such a small area to try to hem, you know, fold it over and, you know, hem it down. So I'm going to try that and we'll see how it goes. Okay, this Heat and Bond, like no-sew, hem, glue stuff is fantastic. It might be my new best friend when I'm working on little like armholes like this to hem down. And what I did is that I clipped it in the corners right here. I'm not sure if you can really see that. Hopefully, maybe. I clipped it so that it would lay flat. And I ironed it first. And then I put the glue, this stuff, in between the layers and just ironed it down. You don't want to have the steam on. That's what this stuff said. The instructions said that. Now this is a 1/2 inch. I don't have a 1/4 inch, but I think I'm going to buy one next time I go to the store. So I had to cut it in half. And I just worked in little small sections, about maybe 2-inch sections, because this is a curve going around here. And it worked fantastic. But like I said before, I'm going to sew a little seam around here so that it gives the effect of a hem, because if not, it's just really kind of plain, and I don't know, I don't like that so much. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I don't know how it's going to do after it's washed. It's very stiff. That's the only thing that I am a little concerned with. I'm wondering if it'll soften up a little bit after it's been washed a few times, hopefully. friends, final thoughts on this little pajama top. It's really cute. It turned out really well, I think. The armholes could be a little bit smaller, like a little bit less fabric. But that's really the only thing. It really fits pretty well. And so I'm really pretty happy with it. And I mean, sometimes when you do things like this and you make something without a pattern, I always just kind of expect there's going to be a little bit of trial and error until you get the pattern exactly perfect to the way you want it. So just keep that in mind. And I do really think it turned out good. So I hope you've enjoyed these videos. I hope this has inspired you to try making your own things, using your own clothes you already have as a pattern. And let me know. Let me know if you've done this before, if you've sewed something without a pattern and how it turned out and what you might do different. Like and subscribe if you want to. I so appreciate all the new subscribers. It's just making me so happy when I see that I'm just creating a community of people who like to do the same things that I like to do. And so thank you so much for subscribing and liking my videos. Yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.